can't be done. The devil is a lie. You need to abort every voice that says you can't do it, you can't have it, you can't be it, you'll never get up, you'll never survive. The devil is a lie. Abort that thing. Push it out. Oh, it ain't gonna be no Holyfield fight dancing around. Oh, no.
Alert! 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 This is not a podcast. I repeat, this is not a podcast. Get ready for the fastest hour in wireless broadcast history. Welcome to Radio Free New England. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of freedom, Lee Elci.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The fastest hour in radio is here. 5 radio stations across the entire state of Connecticut, including our good pals WDRC AM and FM up and around Hartford. All kinds of great listeners. Get out of the rush hour and get into the fastest hour in radio. Now, normally I don't do this. Normally we don't start out this hour. Actually, I almost rarely have a lot of guests in the noontime hour. But you know what? This one is a good one. And I figured let's reach a whole different group of people and bring on this next gentleman who has, I've known him since we probably played Little League All-Stars together in 1972, right, Phil?
Oh, many, many, many years ago.
In 1972, yep. Which is incredible. So Phil Marie is here with us in the studio. And those of you who may be familiar with this story, some might say, no way is it true. It can't be true. It's impossible. Some folks believe every word you say. But you've come on a couple of different times and you've relayed a story to the people out there that certainly gets their interest and certainly piques their attention. So let's just do this. Let's start out like this. Tell everybody, because you're talking to, in some cases, a different audience. Tell everybody in 2 minutes or less how you got to where you are right now.
All right, Lee. Back in 2007, I applied to the game show Deal or No Deal on NBC with Howie Mandel and sent in an application. At that time, I was living up in New Hampshire. Like within a week later, I noticed I was being stalked and all this weird stuff started going on. It got worse and worse. My house ended up bugged. They were body shaming me in my own privacy of my own house. The public, it was brutal. My truck was bugged. And I also woke up with a wound in the back of my head. Woke up groggy and felt violated, and I suspected that I was drugged, and they did something to me. A lot of the local folks would hint to me after a while about being chipped, and it was extremely creepy. And then even my uncle from Philly mentioned that his friend Chip from California might be able to help me. So, you know what, Lee? Yeah, it sounds a little bizarre, but you know what? In the world we're in, this is probably nothing compared to what other people may be going through.
And that's something else I wanted to talk to you about, because there is a community, and maybe that's the right word, maybe it's not, of people who feel as though they're being targeted by the government, right? So you actually have a network that you talk with, correct?
I try not to intermingle with them too much. Because
but they are out there, though.
There's thousands, if not tens of thousands.
Right.
A lot of this is either prevention of potential lawsuits against large corporations, military and industrial complex people, whistleblowers have this happen to them. And what it is, they use space weaponry, also known as no-touch weapons, directed energy weapons. And these weapons are invisible. Lee, I've been talking about this for many, many years on my local TV show. And you've been watching it. And then all of a sudden the thing in China and Cuba happened. And then, microwave weapons. So everything I've ever talked about has actually happened. Right. Like, has been validated in the mainstream media. But last time I was on with you, we discussed about this whole thing with my head, about getting a MRI. And you had asked me on the air if someone would. So...
Well, let's let everybody know exactly what we're talking about. So you claim that you're sure that there's a chip in your head.
I have always suspected that I was chipped. It was too scary to talk about because anytime I tried to mention it to the medical community, they immediately say, you need psychological help.
Looney bin.
Exactly.
Right.
So, this company's Neuralink, Elon Musk.
Yeah. And
there's a scary interview about AI, artificial intelligence, microchips, and making cyborgs.
Right.
With, it's online. But so I waited many years before I started pushing this idea that I believe I've been microchipped. I wasn't afraid to talk about that I'm being shocked because I have been, and burns on my flesh. You see the pictures. I have tons of evidence as far as this. So I waited till about a couple years ago, actually, when Trump became president. I felt a little safer.
You thought that was going to be a savior for you, right?
Well, I felt safer, obviously, with him as president. And on Twitter, I got the attention of very powerful, many people in the media, what have you, lawmakers, Ted Cruz.
Right.
Everyone's aware of my situation. So at that point, I felt a little more safer to talk about this whole thing about being microchipped. So I slipped, fell, actually hurt myself, so I had to go to the hospital, and inadvertently, I had a CAT scan.
Right.
So in that CAT scan, I knew, you get a copy of it. So I went home, days later I got a copy, and I just kept staring at that same location that I've posted a picture of a head on Twitter, showed it on my TV show, Lee, of that location of a head wound. Coincidentally, there is several images of an object in that same exact location.
Tell everybody where that is. Lower of your head, right?
Exactly. And
if you look, and I'm looking at, I can't read an X-ray. I don't know what I'm looking at, but if I'm looking at this X-ray, there is definitely a dot in the back of your X-ray or CAT scan. So
exactly.
I don't know what I'm looking at, but I do see a dot.
And there's several different angles in images.
Right.
So did that help me in any sense to say, okay, now I know for sure? I mean, what a burden, Lee. I mean, what a heavy burden. I almost feel like crying because it's a burden. It's just a burden that's beyond what anybody can imagine. And to think that society someday wants to microchip people, let me tell you, Lee, there's a thing called remote neural monitoring, where these microchips, they're like medical devices. They're hooked to satellites, and the satellites are also hooked to computers, hooked to artificial intelligence.
Right.
So they can manipulate your whole body. Remote neural monitoring means they know your brain thoughts, what you see. It's really creepy, and if your listeners want to know, there's an article in the Epoch Times, EPOCH, the Epoch Times, about thousands in China exposed to mind control. If they want to read up, I mean, this activity is going on throughout the whole world. Therefore, Trump is doing the right thing. Space Force, Ted Cruz is involved with it. Vice President Pence.
All right, so just to back up a couple seconds here again, we're talking with Phil Marie, and he's got some incredible claims, and we've had him on before. Now, just to show you that he's not the only one that thinks like this, former vice president actually talked about this
2005
in hearings, correct?
With Justice Roberts' hearing for his... Yeah.
Let me play a little bit of that for everybody.
Our constitutional journey did not stop then, and it must not stop now, Judge. And we'll be faced with equally consequential decisions in the 21st century. Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that. And, Judge, I need to know whether you will be a justice who believes that the constitutional journey must continue to speak to these consequential decisions, or that we've gone far enough in protecting against government intrusion into our autonomy, into the most personal decisions we make. Judge, that's why this is a critical moment.
All right, so there you go. So Joe Biden speaking of the very same things that you are speaking of today. He did it a bunch of years ago. So you're convinced right now, and you're convinced you actually have a chip in your belly as well, correct?
Well, previously I was on the air with you, and you mentioned about my colon injury.
Right.
That's another thing, Lee. I was on Twitter that night that happened at 2 a.m. Two powerful jolts came ripping right up through my crotch. I was sleeping on my back. Right up through my crotch, out through my head.
Right.
And my head was killing me. I was tweeting about it. I even have a video on YouTube from my TV show talking about that, proving that I was tweeting then. 3 days later, I almost died. My colon had ruptured, and it was going septic. If I had waited one more morning, I would have been gone. And so I had two major surgeries. I had the colostomy bag and absolutely cruel. On this second surgery, where the bag was, the big hole, that was, your new hole where the waste exits. But that was an open wound. And the open wound had to be packed with gauze. And from that point on, the first visiting nurse, I hate to just blame someone, but that first visiting nurse fiddled with that thing, poking for 20 minutes, Lee, and blocking it with her left hand. I didn't know what was going on, but I suspect there is a microchip in that wound area, same as I suspect in the back of my head, the image. So I stand firm on that, and I would like a thorough examination of my entire body at this point.
So you're willing, anybody listening, any doc out there willing to get you and give you a complete examination, full out, with the pictures and everything, you're willing to do it?
Absolutely.
All right, good.
Absolutely. Why would I not?
I know.
This has been 12 years of this.
I know.
They have consumed, I'm 54, I was 42. They stole 12 years of my life, Lee. You see me every week on the TV show,
Sure.
you know.
You're in constant pain. There's no question about it. And you're getting shocked every day.
It increased since that second surgery.
Right.
To a point of monitoring my entire body. I feel it. They can manipulate things, make my heart beat, speed ups, this, that. Yeah, I truly suspect that there's a second chip in my gut area.
And you're also, you think that they can see what you see.
Absolutely.
Tell everybody about that.
Lee, I know they can. So if I'm reading stuff, what it is, this is where I think artificial intelligence is connected with this technology. It has to be, Lee, because if I'm reading something, it's corresponding right along with me in real time, shocking me as what I'm reading. And there's certain words, like this has been going on from day one with these California creeps, and I'm going to call them out. Every time California is mentioned anywhere, TV commercials, they would shock me in the calf. This has been going on for 12 years. And but there's many times what I see, it's just so creepy, Lee, that they correspond, and it's so quick that I can't imagine that any sort of real time, by the time they see it, and a human being pushing a button to zap me, I maybe, the military, the CIA, who knows what they're capable of. Here's the wild card. China owns Hollywood. So the Hollywood folks, they're the ones at stake with this. They're the ones that did it. The Howie Mandel, the Danny Woodburn, my cousin, the midget, the actor.
Right.
These people were clearly involved up there. So China owns Hollywood. And if you follow the news lately, everyone's cowering to China. What was there this morning about the NBA? Cowering to China. This is going on. China, Lee, China has 80% of all our active ingredients in our medicines come from China.
Okay.
China can... FoxNews.com has an article about that. It's scary what China's doing. Space weaponry. They want to dominate the world by 2025.
All right, so here's the question. I asked you this last time. I ask you it again, because everyone's going to ask me to ask you the same question. So there are 300 million people live here in this country, and why do they pick you? Like, why is it you that they're targeting? And I know there's more than just you. There's a group of folks out there. But what was it? Was it just because you were wrong place, wrong time? Somebody's out to get you? You were easy because no one suspects you? What is it?
Well, as far as with the Hollywood folks and my relatives, I'm telling you, right in the very beginning, they came after my faith in Christ, Lee. People were mocking me right in the very beginning when this all started, and it still continues. So I think it's a matter of two different worlds. Out in Hollywood, they don't like Christ. So that's what started it with these guys. As far as other people being targeted, you have to remember, even China with this technology, where do they usually get it from? American companies.
Right.
All right, satellite technology, everything. Thank Bill Clinton for that in the late 90s for that crap.
That's true.
But that's where. I hate to throw it at, but the military-industrial complex, they have these weapons. They make these weapons. Mm-hmm. They have to practice with these weapons. Our own military and CIA have to practice with these weapons for real-time use someday.
Right.
How are they going to get proficient at using these weapons to see what the capabilities are? And somehow, I believe also that these chips may be hacked to a point via satellite. It could be our own government, could be the Chinese government, and it could be GE. GE owned NBC at the time when I applied to Deal or No Deal. GE is big time.
You disappointed with Trump as far as coming to the rescue? I know you tweet to Trump almost every day, right?
I am. Man, it makes me almost cry. Yep. Totally disappointed.
Because you actually you were hoping that this was going to be the end, right?
Yeah.
When he got to be president, that was going to be the end of the shocks, the end of the attacks, all of that.
Yep.
And it wasn't. It actually got worse.
It did get worse. Now, there's many ways of looking at it. I think that what you're seeing going on right now, all the attacks of the deep state and all these whistleblowers, all this crazy stuff, they've been after Trump. He's trying to fight off all these crazy dogs nipping at him. So they're actually limiting what he can do as a president, unfortunately.
Right.
But at the same time, he did initiate the Space Force. And I know the Space Force will take control of all the satellites and will know what every satellite does. We have no idea what these satellites do. And they just keep putting them up more and more. As a matter of fact, 5G is going to blast the entire Earth with low-orbit satellites. There's already thousands up there already this year put up. And the goal is to have like 20,000 satellites. Elon Musk is involved in that, too.
Phil Murray is here with us in the studio. And this is the third or fourth time we've had him on. He's got an incredible story. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to email me, leelcradio@gmail.com. And I will try to pass that along to Phil as soon as I can. I got to ask you, so you say you get shocked a lot. And I think maybe people out there want to know, like, what does it feel like? I think last time you said it felt like licking the back of a battery or something like that, right?
Okay, as kids, Lee. A 9-volt battery that goes in the smoke detectors.
Right.
All right. I remember as a kid put my tongue on it, and it's this incredible...
Yeah, no good.
Yeah, exactly. That's what sometimes, if it's a strong pulse, it feels like. It stings, and you feel that energy go in, and then it leaves a numbing effect. It could be upwards to 15 minutes to an hour.
Right.
And if I continue...
Like it'll hurt for an hour, you're saying?
No, the numbing part will.
All right.
But they've been shocking me in the head a lot since January. That's why I came on the air with you at the end of April about it, because they caused me several concussion-type feelings where it hurt so bad that my eye socket stayed numb all day. The upper teeth stayed numb. So, yeah, the injuries and the pain varies, Lee. And then when I'm outside wearing shorts, they can sting me like a bee, and it leaves a 1/16 white laser burn dot that takes 2 to 3 weeks or more to finally fade away. I've seen it actually happen to another person, that's someone close to me.
Okay.
Quite intimidating, because I didn't want to scare them and say, you're being attacked, Lee. But So this type weaponry it comes from satellites, the majority of it.
Yeah.
But these microchips, I strongly believe, also interact with that and can inflict pain into my body like medical devices via satellite. They can send shocks and pulses to the patients, whether it's whatever the device. So
You lost a lot of friends because of this, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And up in New Hampshire, I lost everything. All kinds of close friends, but
High school friends too, though, right?
yeah, some of the high school friends in the early on, yeah.
Weird.
So what it is, Lee, it's easier to go into denial about this stuff.
Yeah.
And most people become so uncomfortable that they don't want to know the truth. But we're entering a time in this world that if you do not know the truth, go ahead and stick your head in the sand. Guess what? Someday you may be victimized by it. And by the way, there's no state law of involuntary microchipping here in Connecticut. I have a list of states that have laws already.
Right.
California, Lee, Colorado, Florida, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Georgia,
Right.
Missouri. So some of those are serious offenses to illegally microchip someone. Do you know how easy it is with the date rape drug to literally slip that into somebody's thing? All right, they pass out and you put a little chip in them, and now you own them as a human slave, Lee. This is an advanced form of human trafficking, and I've been tweeting about that to the Justice Department.
Right.
And I actually like the idea. I didn't realize we had a man like John Durham that actually is in our district here in Connecticut,
Right.
and I would like to meet up with that guy someday soon to get to the bottom of this. Lee, I just want my life back.
Right.
You know that.
I know. I know. All right, so we're out of time as always. It goes too quick. But is there some place you want people to go to learn more about you, or just go watch your show if you got the Atlantic broadband, or how do you want them to find out more
Well, it's
about
on
Phil?
Frontier also. Frontier Cablecast has it also,
All right.
and they can go to if they really want to see some action, they can go to Twitter and see
Follow you on Twitter,
or just check it out. They don't necessarily have to follow me. I have a lot of people watching, Lee, but they're not following me.
I
Trust
know.
me. They
Sometimes
just
they get nervous. You think, right?
Well, they're spying. Well, curiosity.
Oh, okay.
But here's the bottom line, Lee.
Yeah.
My life has been stolen from me, hijacked for 12 years.
Right.
I'm 54, and these injuries, like my stomach injury, it's screwed up. I have a hernia. I still work construction, Lee, and I have to put up with this stuff all day long, shocked in the head while I try to work construction every single day.
Phil, listen, I appreciate it. You're a nice guy. You don't deserve to go through this. So, folks, go check him out. Check him out on Twitter, and I'll talk to you soon. Let me know. Keep us up to date what's going on.
Sure.